Hey, what's up guys? In this video I want to talk about the knafs lender after 2 years of use, approximately 2 years. No, actually not approximately, almost exactly 2 years of use. This knife has been very much neglected by myself and my dad, and yeah, we're gonna take a look at it, how it held up. If you're wondering why the Kaiser Domen is in the background, this knife basically serves the exact same role as the lander does in my family. It's just a beater knife that we all use, and this one is almost 5 years old, and we're gonna compare those two in a second. But first, let's take a look at the current condition that this knife is in. As you see, we have a little bit of wear on this plate here and screws, and it appears that the pocket clip is bent up a little bit. I don't know what happened here. I have to ask my dad. Maybe it got hung on at something. And yeah, we also have a terrible blade centering right now. I guess if I tighten down the pivot, that should remove that issue. But currently everything is really wobbly. I can actually feel the scales shift back and forth. It's not very good. Lockup is a lot further over to one side, I think, than it used to be. And yeah, the knife also is completely dull. I'm not sure when I last sharpened this knife. It must be a year ago or something, I don't know. But yeah, the condition that it is in is pretty nasty. It's very squeaky, and it still flips open fine. If I remember correctly, this knife runs on bearings. Yes, it does indeed. And yeah, so the action is still squeaky, but it's relatively good still usable. So let's see if we can actually tighten down the pivot and remove the whole wobbling issue. Alright, now that we have tightened down the pivot as far as we could, the knife is still slightly off-centered. I've never removed the scales. Apparently you can remove the scales without removing the pivot. But yeah, in this case I need to completely disassemble it, to clean it from the inside. You have to remove the pivot screw, you have to remove 2 screws that hold the scales, the pocket clip screws, and then underneath there are additional screws in order to make this mechanism work, that you can remove the scales without removing the pivot. I don't know if I need that. You know, if you change scales a lot, that might be useful, but I think for disassembly, overall construction, I think this knife is overly complicated actually. Oh shit. Yeah. So the knife is indeed very dirty on the inside. Good thing that I cleaned it. That actually might be rust. Let me check on that. So yeah, as it appears, our D2 blade underneath the scales has definitely picked up some slight oxidation. I wouldn't call it's a bad condition of rust, it's just a slight surface rust, but I definitely have to clean this off. Yeah, the blade seems to be fine in terms of rust. The stone wash definitely helps. And yeah, here you can also see the bearings. These are plastic cages and very tiny bearings, really cheap actually, I feel like. So I did remove the surface rust on the inside, and now we can see what is actually real rust. And we have a couple of spots up here. If the camera can focus, we can see that a little bit clearer. There you go. So these black spots up here, these are the oxidation process has already started, but it is not rust quite yet, but it's becoming rust. This black spot right here, same thing, and we have a couple of spots on the blade. Here we have definitely a rust spot already, and a couple of sprinkles over here. These are the iron atoms in the matrix of the steel that start to oxidate here. A little bit of rust around the detent ball hole, and inside the pivot we definitely also have some rust that has already started to form. A little bit up here as well, I think. Yeah, so this is, yeah, obviously D2 is not a stainless steel, it will rust, but keep in mind this knife has been horribly neglected for 2 years, has never seen any kind of oil, has never been disassembled so far. So this is actually kind of normal, something you would expect. You can definitely avoid it if you treat your knives a little bit better than we do. But again, this is a beater knife. It was very inexpensive, and I'm not even bothered about cleaning the rest off completely, to be honest. We're just gonna keep using it until it breaks. So let's actually reassemble it and see if we can get the action back together right, have it centered again, and then we'll sharpen it, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, now that I reassembled the knife, the blade centering is still a hair off. I couldn't adjust it even with messing around with the body screws and pivot. The knife is very tight right now, so as it gets used and gets looser, the blade centering might even go off-centered a little bit more. But yeah, that's what you get here. I could mess with it even more and, you know, play around with it and try to get it centered again, but I need this knife back into action as soon as possible. I actually wanted to show you the Kaiser Mini Domin. This knife has been a beater knife for me and my dad for the past 4.5 years, almost 5 years now. And as you can see, this knife is still perfectly centered, always was. It is in a very bad condition. Also, it needs to be resharpened, and it's very dirty on the inside. The only issue this one has is that there is an internal track for the internal stop pins. The thumb studs also serve as stop pins, but there are additional internal stop pins. And I don't know why they did that. It's kind of over complicating the mechanism. They just should have used the thumb studs, I guess. But yeah, they also did internal stop pins, which I guess gives you a more solid construction in terms of blade play, but it also makes it more complicated because there is this internal track where the stop pins rotate, and there is a little bit of pocket fill stuck in those tracks, which is why the blade is slightly over. It's not completely flush with the scales, so I have to take it apart, clean it, and then it's flush with the scales again. But yeah, this knife always is perfectly centered, and I think the action, despite it being super filthy, it's not squeaky at all. Lockup is still the same as it used to be, always was solid. I feel like in terms of quality, if I compare these two, I feel like Kaiser is just a step above. These are made by QSP, I think, and yeah, the liner lock feels a lot better. The blade centering is a lot better over time. Remember, this is almost twice as old. There's quite a difference in terms of wear, and I couldn't say that this knife has been used more. This knife definitely has been used a lot more because it's older, and yeah. But yeah, the issue with the internal track for the rotating stop pin is always present on this one, because there's always a little bit of filth in there. But yeah, I do like that this one is on washers as opposed to bearings. I think it's just a more robust action for a beater knife overall. And yeah, construction is a little bit better with Kaiser knives. I start off on this coarse DMT diamond stone. Now I'm at the Naniva 400 grit stone, which is a kind of a medium diamond stone. You can use it very coarse, or you can use it in wet condition, which gives it a slight bit of polish. I start off coarse and then I finish in water. Alright, the knife is back to hair popping sharp. The steel actually sharpened up fine. Didn't had any issues with that. There were not really chips in the blade, so the steel was decently tough, I would say. And yeah, it sharpened up well. It seems to be well heat treated. I can't say anything bad about the steel as of right now. About the construction, yeah, it's not perfect. It feels a little bit, you know, inexpensive. I think it's a little bit over designed with the bearings. That was actually my biggest critique when I got this knife, that it uses bearings. I would say washers would be a little bit better, and the mechanism that you can change the scales without remove the pivot make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. Oh, by the way, I fixed the pocket clip issue, so this clip is now flush again with the scales. I just had to bend it a little bit, and yeah, sadly I couldn't fix the centering, but overall I think it held up really well for how much it was neglected. Build quality could be higher, but this is also a budget knife, of course, so yeah, it is what it is. It's a good knife as of right now in the price range that it sits in. There is a 14C 28N version of this if you don't want to have the D2. Oddly enough, the 14C is more expensive than the D2 version, which I don't know why that is the case, but yeah, I like 14C. I think it's a good steel. It's a little bit tougher and more stainless. And yeah, the Lander 2 now has an axis lock type system, a crossbar lock, and I don't know who builds the Lander 2. That might actually be a different company than QSP, but yeah. This is what it is. This is the Lander 1 after 2 years of neglection, and yeah, this is the condition that it is in right now. Thank you guys for watching, and maybe we see each other in another video.